The golden afternoon light filtered through the dusty lace curtains of the old manor, casting long, skeletal shadows across the floorboards that creaked under the weight of a lifetime of secrets. Most people in our small town thought they knew the Miller family. They saw the polished silver, the perfectly manicured lawn, and the way my daughter-in-law, Elena, carried herself with an air of untouchable grace. But appearances are the most effective masks, and I had spent the last 5 years living in the silence of a house that was breathing with lies. My name is Ghazal, and for a long time, I chose to be the quiet observer, the grandmother who sat in the corner knitting sweaters while the world crumbled around her. But everything changed on a Tuesday evening when the wind carried a sound from the north wing, a part of the house that had been strictly off limits since the day my son, David, married Elena. Before we open that door together, I want to ask you a question. Have you ever felt like someone in your family was hiding their true self from you? Tell me your story in the comments. I read every single one. And if you believe that the truth always deserves to come to light, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. By joining our family here, you ensure that these voices of wisdom and justice are never silenced. Share this story with someone you love. You never know who needs to hear this lesson today. Now, let's go back to that hallway. The north wing was a place of shadows. Elena had told me it was used for storage, a graveyard for old furniture and memories better left forgotten. David, my own flesh and blood, had looked me in the eye and warned me that the flooring there was unstable, that it wasn't safe for a woman of my age. I had believed them because a mother wants to believe her son. I had stayed in my lane, occupying the small guest suite on the ground floor, feeling like a stranger in the house my own late husband had built. But that evening, the house was supposed to be empty. David was at a corporate retreat, and Elena had supposedly gone to a charity gala. Yet as I stood in the kitchen brewing a cup of chamomile tea, I heard it, a rhythmic, metallic scraping sound coming from directly above me. My heart hammered against my ribs like a trapped bird. I set the teapot down, the porcelain clinking against the counter, and found myself walking toward the forbidden staircase. Every step felt like a betrayal of the peace I had tried so hard to maintain. When I reached the top of the stairs, the air changed. It smelled of ozone and something sharply antiseptic. I walked past the crates of storage and realized they were empty, mere props meant to discourage curiosity. Finally, I stood before the door at the end of the hall. It was the only door in the house that had a modern electronic keypad lock installed. I reached out, my fingers trembling. I didn't have a code, but as I moved closer, I saw that the door wasn't fully latched. Someone had been in a hurry. Someone had been careless. I pushed it open just an inch, and the truth didn't come in a shout, but in a whisper. The room wasn't a storage closet. It was a high-tech monitoring station. Screens lined the walls, flickering with black and white feeds of every single room in the house, including my bedroom, the bathroom, and the garden. I saw myself on one of the screens, a small, frail woman standing in a doorway, looking at a version of herself that was being recorded. But that wasn't the secret. The secret was the man sitting in the chair, his back to me, wearing a headset. He wasn't a thief, and he wasn't David. He was typing furiously, his fingers dancing over a keyboard as he spoke into a microphone in a low, urgent tone. He was talking about the asset and the final transfer. As I stood there paralyzed, I saw Elena walk into the frame of one of the monitors. She wasn't at a gala. She was in the basement, standing over a floor safe I never knew existed, pulling out bundles of documents that bore my late husband's signature. My mind raced. David hadn't been protecting me from unstable floors. He and Elena had been monitoring my every move to ensure I never stumbled upon the fact that the inheritance I thought was settled was actually being systematically drained into offshore accounts. They were waiting for me to fade away so the paper trail would die with me. But as I watched the man in the chair, he turned around and the blood drained from my face. It was the lawyer who had handled my husband's will, the man I had trusted for 30 years. He looked at me through the gap in the door, his eyes widening not with fear, but with a cold, calculated hunger. He didn't move. He simply smiled and said, "You were never supposed to see the truth behind this door. Now that you have, the story has to change." I backed away into the darkness of the hallway, the sound of his chair rolling across the floor echoing like a gunshot. I realized then that the house I lived in wasn't a home. It was a cage, and the people I loved weren't my family. They were my jailers. I ran back to my room, locking the door, my mind spinning with 1,000 questions. How long had they been watching? Who else was involved? And most importantly, if they knew I knew, what would happen when the sun went down? I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the closed door of my own room, wondering if I was truly alone, or if, at this very second, they were watching me through a lens I couldn't see. I want you to think about your own surroundings for a moment. Do you really know the people you share your meals with? Do you know what lies behind the doors that stay locked in your own life? Sometimes the most dangerous people aren't the ones who break into your house, but the ones who already have the keys. As I sit here writing this, I hear a key turning in the front door below. David is home early. Or is he? What would you do if you realized your entire life was a stage performance for an audience of one? Would you stay and fight, or would you disappear into the night? The truth is behind the door, but now that the door is open, there is no going back. I can only hope that by the time you hear this, I have found the answer to the most terrifying question of all. Who can you trust when your own blood has sold you to the highest bidder?